Have you ever wondered why the Aztecs practiced human sacrifice? What drove an entire civilization to offer lives to their gods? Let's uncover the fascinating and mysterious world of the Aztec rituals. Have you ever stood under a vast starry sky and felt a sense of wonder? A feeling that you are part of something much, much bigger? Now imagine a civilization that lived and breathed this feeling every single day. A people who saw the universe as a living, breathing entity with needs, desires, and a terrifying hunger. This was the world of the Aztecs. We look back at them through the lens of time and see a powerful, sophisticated empire. We see their towering pyramids, intricate art. But we also encounter a practice that feels alien to us: human sacrifice. Why would such an advanced society engage in such a brutal act? To understand, we must journey back in time, into a different way of seeing the cosmos itself, shed our modern assumptions and try to see the world through their eyes. The line between the physical and the spiritual was a shimmering, porous veil. To grasp the Aztec worldview, we must start at the beginning. Not their beginning, but the beginning of their universe. Their creation myths tell of a series of worlds or suns, each created and destroyed in a cycle of cosmic catastrophe. They believed they were living in the age of the fifth sun, but this final world was born from an extraordinary act of sacrifice by the gods. The universe was plunged into darkness. The gods gathered at Teotihuacan to choose the new sun. Nanahuatzin leaped into a great fire and became the sun. This story is the key to everything. The gods gave their life force to create the world and set the sun in motion. Humanity therefore had an eternal debt to repay. This wasn't a metaphor, it was a law of physics, as real as gravity. The cosmos required energy to keep running. The most precious energy was Chalchihuatl. Precious water, human blood. This idea shaped every aspect of society. It wasn't born from cruelty, but from cosmic responsibility. They saw themselves as partners with the gods, keeping the universe alive. Failure meant catastrophe. The sun would stop moving. The Tsitsimime, star monsters, would descend and devour humanity. The world would be plunged into eternal darkness. Imagine a city built on an impossible dream. This was Tenochtitlan. According to legend, the wandering Mexica were told by their god Huitzilopochtli to build their home where they saw a sign: an eagle perched on a cactus, devouring a serpent. After a long journey, they found this sign on a swampy island in Lake Texcoco. Here, against all odds, they built their magnificent capital. By the early 1500s, Tenochtitlan was one of the largest, most organized cities on Earth. A stunning feat of engineering, a metropolis that seemed to float on water, crisscrossed by canals that served as streets, plied by thousands of canoes. Daily life was a vibrant tableau. At the heart was the Tlatelolco market, a sprawling plaza that left the conquistadors breathless. Here you could find anything imaginable. Merchants, the Pochteca, brought exotic goods, brilliant feathers from tropical birds, precious jade and turquoise, jaguar pelts, cacao beans used as currency. In the very heart of Tenochtitlan, enclosed by a ceremonial wall called the Cotapantli, or Serpent Wall, lay the sacred precinct. This was the religious and political nucleus. It was a sprawling complex of dozens of buildings, temples, priests' quarters, schools for the nobility, and a court for the sacred ball game, Olamalistli. But dominating the cityscape was the Templo Mayor, the Great Temple. This was not just a building, it was a man-made mountain, a sacred axis connecting the underworld, the earthly realm, and the heavens. It was the stage upon which the most important cosmic dramas were performed. The Templo Mayor was a massive stepped pyramid with two temples at its summit. One, painted in blue and white, was dedicated to Tlaloc, rain, water, and agriculture. He was the provider of sustenance, the force behind the crops that fed the empire. The other shrine, painted in stark red and white, belonged to Huitzilopochtli, the god of sun and war. This dual structure was a powerful symbol of the core of Aztec life. Atl Tlachinoli, meaning water and burnt earth, a metaphor for warfare and the sustenance it provided in the form of tribute and sacrificial offerings. These pyramids were not simply places of worship, they were living representations of Aztec cosmology. The pyramid dedicated to Huitzilopochtli was designed to represent Coatepec, the Serpent Mountain, where he was mythically born and defeated his sister, the Moon. The grand staircase leading to his shrine was the very path of his ascent. During ceremonies, the sacrificial victim would be led up these stairs, reenacting the god's cosmic battle. Their death at the summit was a dramatic replay of Huitzilopochtli's primordial victory over the forces of darkness. It was a piece of religious theater on the grandest possible scale, designed to be seen by the tens of thousands gathered in the plaza below. The construction of these temples was itself a sacred act. The Templo Mayor was rebuilt and expanded multiple times by successive emperors, each new layer encasing the old one like the rings of a tree. With each expansion, vast numbers of dedicatory offerings were buried within its core. Archaeologists excavating the site have found a treasure trove of these artifacts: precious jade masks from distant lands, coral and shells from the coast, stone statues of gods and sacrificial flint knives adorned with turquoise mosaics. These offerings consecrated the temple, infusing it with sacred energy and making it a true focal point for the spiritual power of the empire. Aztec sacrificial ceremonies were not hidden, secret affairs conducted in the dead of night. They were grand, public spectacles, meticulously planned and performed in the full light of the sun. These rituals were the centerpieces of the great religious festivals that marked the Aztec calendar. These events were a form of mass communication, a way for the state to reinforce its power, and for the entire community to participate in the collective responsibility of maintaining cosmic order. The plaza at the base of the Templo Mayor could hold thousands of people, all gathered to witness the sacred drama unfold on the pyramid high above. It was, honestly, a powerful, unifying experience. The ceremony was a multi-sensory event, a symphony of sight, sound and smell. Processions of priests would move through the city, elaborate vestments, masks representing the gods, the air thick with the fragrant smoke of burning copal incense. The rhythmic beat of large upright drums, Huitl, the shrill conch shell trumpets, dancers performing, telling the stories of the gods, costumes made of macaw feathers, costumes made of quetzal feathers. The individuals chosen for sacrifice, often captive warriors, were treated with a mixture of reverence and solemnity. A particularly esteemed captive chosen to impersonate a god like Tezcatlipoca would be given a year of lavish living, dressed in the finest clothes, taught to play the flute, treated as a living manifestation of the deity. For a year he walked the earth as a god. This was not mockery, it was making the offering divine and perfect. Every person in Aztec society, from the emperor to the humble farmer, had a role to play in this cosmic contract. The Huitzilopochtli, more than a political leader. He was the chief priest and commander-in-chief. He was ultimately responsible for ensuring the festivals were held and the gods were appeased. His authority came from being the intermediary between the human world and the divine. He led the most important ceremonies, wearing the regalia of the gods themselves. His actions directly influenced the fate of the empire. Every decision weighed against maintaining cosmic balance. The priests, the Tlamakazki, were the scholars and technicians of the sacred. They were masters of the calendars. They were astronomers who watched the stars. They were keepers of the sacred books, the codices. They were trained from a young age in schools called Kalmakak. There they learned the complex pantheon of gods. They learned the intricate details of every ritual. They learned the hymns and prayers required for each ceremony. It was their duty to ensure every aspect of the ritual was performed perfectly. Any mistake could invalidate the offering and anger the gods. Their lives were dedicated to the precise execution of this sacred science. The warriors held a place of immense honor. Jaguar knights, eagle knights. Their sacred duty was to provide the food for the gods. On the battlefield, their goal was often to capture enemies alive, not just kill them. A warrior who captured many prisoners gained enormous prestige and could rise through the ranks. They saw themselves as agents of Huitzilopochtli, harvesting divine energy to sustain the universe. The Makuahuitl, their obsidian-bladed club, was not just a weapon but an instrument of sacred purpose. Their bravery in battle was a direct contribution to the survival of their people. Even the commoners, artisans and market sellers, played their part. Artisans crafted intricate featherwork. They made ceremonial pottery. They carved stone for the temples. They wove the cotton cloth for the priests' vestments. They grew the maize that would be offered. They grew the flowers that would be laid as offerings. Every citizen participated in the festivals. Their collective presence and devotion added power to the ceremony. The woman who sold tamales in the market, the man who fixed a canoe on the canal. Society was a single, cohesive machine, and every person was a vital cog in the great engine that kept the cosmos turning. The Aztec world may have vanished, but its voice was not entirely silenced. it speaks to us through the things they left behind. These artifacts are not just museum pieces, they are time capsules, fragments of a belief system that help us read their story. The most famous is the Sunstone, often called the Aztec calendar by mistake, a massive basalt disk, a masterpiece of cosmic cartography. At its center, the face of the sun god Tenochtitlan, or perhaps the earth monster Huitzilopochtli. Around him, symbols of the previous creations, the destroyed suns. The stone maps time and declares the Aztec place in the cosmic cycle. It reminds us of the fragile nature of their world, the fifth sun. We read their story in clothing and adornment. An Aztec warrior's uniform was a sacred statement. Eagle Knight, helmet carved like an eagle's head, covered in eagle feathers, tied to the sun and heavens. Jaguar Knight wore a jaguar pelt, the jaguar, powerful nocturnal predator, symbol of prowess. Outfits were earned by bravery and capturing enemies. Depictions show a living symbol of sacred warfare, battle as worship. At the very center of this cosmic drama was a single powerful deity, Huitzilopochtli. His name means hummingbird of the south. He was the patron god of the Mexica people, the tribe that founded Tenochtitlan and came to dominate the Aztec Empire. Huitzilopochtli was not just any god, he was the sun god, he was the god of war. He was the divine embodiment of their destiny. According to legend, he was born fully grown and armed, springing from his mother, the earth goddess Coatlicue. He rose to defend her from his siblings who wished to harm her. His first act was to vanquish his sister, the moon goddess Coatlicue, and cast her dismembered body from a mountain. That act is reenacted daily in the sky as the sun chases away the moon and stars. That story became the blueprint for Aztec ritual. He was their divine warrior, fighting a constant daily battle against the forces of darkness. As the sun, he journeyed through the underworld each night, exhausted and weakened, only to be reborn at dawn. But this rebirth was not guaranteed. The Aztecs believed he required a constant supply of spiritual energy to fuel his fight. This fuel was Chalchihuatl, human blood. Without it, he would weaken and the darkness would win. The survival of the universe literally rested on keeping their patron god strong and victorious. This belief placed an immense burden on the Aztec state. Their primary purpose, beyond governing and trade, was to serve as cosmic caretakers for Huitzilopochtli. This is why warfare was so central to their culture. They engaged in conflicts known as flowery wars, or Xochitl, with neighboring city-states. While political aims existed, the primary religious purpose was to capture warriors. These captives were regarded as the most worthy offerings for the sun god. A brave warrior, captured in battle, possessed the strength and vitality Huitzilopochtli needed. They were the vessel for the sacred energy transfer. Therefore, the sacrificed warrior was, in a profound way, honored. They were seen as messengers to the gods, participants in the most sacred cosmic duties. Their death ensured the life of everyone else, a transformation, not an end. Aztec poetry describes the battlefield as a place where flowers bloom, warriors destined for sacrifice. Their journey to the sacrificial stone was the culmination of their purpose, nourishing the sun for one more day. His eventual sacrifice was seen as the god returning to the spirit realm. When the moment of sacrifice arrived, it was the culmination of this entire symphony of ritual. The act itself was swift, performed by high priests with obsidian-bladed knives. But the focus for the onlookers was not the violence, it was the symbolism, the ultimate transfer of energy, the heart, seat of the soul and fragment of the sun's energy offered to the heavens. To those gathered, this was not an ending but a moment of renewal. Visible proof their debt was being paid, Huitzilopochtli being fed, and the sun would have the strength to rise again. It was the guarantee of life. Depictions of sacrifice in art are not a celebration of death. They are a religious and philosophical statement about existence. Life was a cycle. To create and sustain life, life must be given. Maize that fed them grew from the divine earth. Rain that nourished maize was a gift from Tlaloc. Every part of the world was interconnected. Human sacrifice was the most powerful transaction, repayment to the divine. This journey is not about judgment, it is about understanding. Peeling back layers of history to find core beliefs. The story is not simple cruelty. It's a complex narrative of cosmology, religion, profound responsibility to maintain balance. A people who believed they were caretakers of the sun, guardians of time. Not a choice, a sacred duty. And it all began with a creation story steeped in divine self-sacrifice. Why should we, in the 21st century, care about the rituals of a civilization from 500 years ago? We should care because the story of the Aztecs is a powerful lesson in how belief can shape a world. Their entire society, their art, their wars, their stunning capital city were all built upon a single core idea, that the universe required their intervention to survive. This was not a fringe belief, it was the operating principle of their civilization. Studying them teaches us how a shared cosmology can motivate a people to achieve incredible feats of engineering, social organization, artistry, all in service of a profound, and to us, terrifying sacred duty. The practice of human sacrifice undeniably shaped their history. It was the engine of their military expansion, providing a religious justification for the conquest of neighboring states. The need for a constant supply of sacrificial victims fueled the growth of their empire, but it also proved to be a critical weakness. The immense resentment felt by subjugated peoples who were forced to pay tribute in goods and in lives created deep fissures within the empire. When Hernán Cortés arrived in 1519, he forged alliances with disgruntled tribes who saw the Spanish as a tool to overthrow their Aztec oppressors. The very ritual that the Aztecs believed would save their world helped precipitate its downfall. Learning about the Aztecs forces us to confront the vast diversity of human experience and belief. It challenges us to step outside our own cultural assumptions, to try to understand a worldview radically different from our own. It is easy to dismiss their practices as barbaric, but it is far more rewarding to ask why. Why did these rituals make sense to them? What cosmic questions were they trying to answer? By doing so, we move beyond simple judgment toward a deeper, more empathetic understanding of the past. We see that they were not monsters, but people grappling with the biggest questions of existence. So the next time you look up at the sun, think of the Aztecs. Think of Huitzilopochtli on his daily journey and the people who believed it was their sacred job to keep him moving. History is filled with amazing stories like this. The ruins of the Templo Mayor still lie in the center of modern Mexico City, a stone skeleton of a lost cosmos. It is a reminder that the past is never truly gone. It is speaking to us, challenging us, and inviting us to listen. Stay curious. There are countless other worlds waiting to be discovered in the pages of history. If you found this fascinating, hit like, share, and subscribe for more incredible history stories.